Recorded Books presents an unabridged recording of American Indians and the Law by N. Bruce Duthu, narrated by George K. Wilson and directed by Sarah Sarchin.
Introduction. In June 1855, a Yakima head chief named Kamiakin joined leaders from neighboring tribes in central Washington to attend a treaty council at the behest of Isaac Stevens, Washington's new territorial governor. The tribal leaders were well aware that Stevens's mission was to buy as much land as he could from the tribes to make way for the rush of white settlers and to clear a legal pathway for the railroads that would connect the western territories to the rest of a growing nation. They also understood that encroaching white settlements and other Indian communities contributed to the spread of disease among Indian people and led to recurring battles over territory and the forced removal of tribal populations by federal military forces. These Western tribal leaders had long heard from other Indian tribes about how the Great Father in the East forced the southeastern tribes to give up their treaty-protected homelands for new lands west of the Mississippi River. They had every reason to be suspicious about the federal government's intentions regarding the northwestern tribes. In an effort to avoid a similar fate, Kamiakin and the leaders of the Walla Walla and Nez Perce tribes organized a major tribal council in 1854 that convened in the Grand Round Valley in eastern Oregon. Over the course of 5 days, the leaders hammered out a strategy for defending their homelands. By the following summer, however, the momentum for an Allied resistance had dissipated, in large part due to threats of armed conflict communicated by Stevens's advance agents. With great reluctance and bitterness, Kamiakin joined his fellow tribal leaders to negotiate terms for land cessions. The treaty text, prepared by United States treaty commissioners, displayed remarkable ignorance or disregard of tribal political structures, in that it lumped 14 distinct tribes into one nation, under the name Yakima, and declared Kamiakin its head chief. Notwithstanding these flaws, on June 9, 1855, Kamiakin rose last among his fellow tribal leaders, made his mark on the treaty, and returned to his seat with his lips covered with blood, having bitten them with suppressed rage. This episode contains elements of the conventional tale most Americans know about the early history of Indian-white relations in America. In that story, Indian tribes appear as the noble defenders of vast but underused aboriginal homelands, adhering to a way of life that Euro-Americans considered intriguing and savage, but ultimately incompatible with the superior, civilized Christian societies engulfing them. There is no Indian future in the winner's version of American history. From the earliest days of the nation, Americans showed a fascination with portraying Indian people as members of a dying race. James Fenimore Cooper's The Last of the Mohicans, published in 1826, and regarded as an American literary classic, celebrated the enterprising spirit and individualism of colonial settlers, and in the process etched the view of Indians as a dying race into the national consciousness. That perspective quickly gained momentum among some of the most influential people in American society. In 1828, Justice Joseph Story of the United States Supreme Court echoed those sentiments in a talk before the Essex Historical Society. "What can be more melancholy than their history?" wrote Justice Story. "By a law of their nature, they seem destined to a slow but sure extinction. Everywhere, at the approach of the white man, they fade away. We hear the rustling of their footsteps like that of the withered leaves of autumn, and they are gone forever. They pass mournfully by.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?